Hello viewers, have you ever tried navigating a busy road and experienced challenges because of bad traffic issues? We all do. But do we stop and think about our fellow citizens with disabilities? How do they manage it? Definitely, it will be worse on them. Welcome to Road Matters. Today, we'll critically look at persons with disability who are using Nigerian roads. What laws govern their driving? Are there some special exemptions? What challenges do they face? How do we make our roads inclusive and safer for everyone? I am Sufyan Muhammad. Do stay with us.
Persons with disability have legal right to drive in Nigeria. The law does not ban them just because of a disability. If they pass through the rudiment driving skills, they cannot be denied a driver's license just because they have a disability. Road regulations require a medical assessment to certify a driver's fitness and ability to operate a vehicle safely. These include a certification by a qualified doctor to confirm suitability to drive.
The procedure for obtaining driver's license is very clear, and government is quite aware of the fact that there are persons with disability, just like provided under the Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2019. That act actually makes provision for transportation, access to public buildings, and so many other areas where provision is actually made for people living with disabilities. For driving in particular, we are quite aware that there are a lot of disabilities that actually driving is not for them. People that are blind or partially blind that impair the ability to see clearly definitely is a no-go area. We're also quite aware that there are people that cannot hear, or that are mentally derailed, people with epilepsy and so many other ailments that will also impair their ability to drive, would constitute a risk to road users and themselves. It's also a no-go area. But people that have issues with their limbs, whether it's one leg or one hand and so many other things like that, there are provisions in advanced countries where they are also into manufacturing. You discover that vehicles are actually constructed specifically for those category of persons. But for licensing, you're quite aware that even for commercial driving, the age is lifted up to 26 years. If you are not up to 26 years, you cannot drive a commercial vehicle. And apart from that, you must be tested for visual acuity. You must also be tested for diabetes. You must also be tested for high blood pressure. If the extent of those ailments it will be to the extent that it will impair your ability to drive, there's a lot of red flag towards that. Then age too. Even age in terms of the upper limit and also the lower limit, they are also there. Those are some of the considerations that are always given for people to drive. But the specific license for people living with disabilities is actually Class J. And this Class J also specifies the extent to which your disability can affect your ability to drive. So those things must be carefully assessed to see whether you can actually qualify to even obtain the Class J, which is actually designed for people that have some level of disability.
I've been driving for the past 9 years now. So when I wanted to get my driver's license, I was trying, and getting appointment for my capturing was very, very difficult because it was I wasn't getting a date, and also I got to know someone who knew road safety Oga as of then. I've forgotten his name. The person booked appointment with him in his office at the headquarters, and we went together. And I now got an express treatment whereby we went that same day. I got captured and subsequently got my driver's license.
I got a driver's license from the road safety. I went to their office. I filled the form. And I indicated my disability in the form. But when the driver's license came, it came with a different class, not the class J that was ordinarily supposed to be issued to me as a person with disability. And, I had to use that driver's license all through those years with a different class. But I did the driving tests with them and all of that, and then got my driver's license.
Persons with disability must obey all general traffic rules, or are there some exemptions of traffic laws just because a driver has a disability?
All the laws that are meant to guide traffic, to guide drivers, to guide pedestrians is the same all over the world. There's no exception whatsoever. And trying to create exceptions will, in the long run, expose people to unnecessary risk, which we cannot take for granted. So because of that, whatever enlightenment we give it to the entirety of road users. But more specifically, those that have disabilities, we call them their vulnerable road users. The vulnerability also extends to children and to older people, apart from people living with disabilities, those that cannot walk very quickly because either one of the leg is bad, or those that have disability in one of the limbs, or those that have disability in terms of their ability to see, or in terms of ability to hear, or in terms of impairment in the brain, and so many other things like that. We all classify them together as vulnerable road users. And in fact, sometimes we even include motorcycle riders as vulnerable because they are exposed road users. So, but in terms of exception, in terms of trying to remove them in the general laws that guide the usage of the road, there's no exception. Everybody is guided by the same law.
This means that disabled drivers must comply with speed limit, wear seatbelt, stop at light, show valid licenses, and document like every other driver. Physically challenged drivers should display official identification stickers on their vehicles, so other road users and enforcement officers can recognize that a car is operated by a person with disability. Other drivers should not treat this as a pass to ride rough, but rather be more patient and considerate, especially in traffic or at junctions.
There are a lot of challenges when you kind of travel outside Abuja, and or the roads are bad and they are narrow. Just not too long, like some years ago, that they have started dualization of the roads, which is making driving a kind of bit easy for road users. If not, the bad state of the roads, the narrowness has been a very big challenge. And also the drivers you meet on the way, people drive so carelessly. It's sometimes it seems as if you are the only sane person on the road. Like it feels as if the person coming forward, the person at your back, or the person even coming beside you are not okay. They are not normal. They are either drunk or something. So the driver's attitude on the road, the overspeeding on the road, and people don't adhere to traffic rules.
We are first humans before disability. Just like disability attracts benefit, in some cases, disability should not also exempt a person from penalty when he goes against the law. So I will start by saying that the person, for instance, traffic rules, just breaking traffic rules unnecessarily, disability should not be an excuse. Really, it shouldn't be an excuse. Recklessness, driving using your phone and all of that, these are things that we say people should not do in order not to add to our community and not also to disable us further. So if we are saying others shouldn't do that, so we also shouldn't do it.
Now, once persons with disabilities should have stickers that would be on their cars, so that other road users, when they see that, they know that this person is a person with disability, or there is a person with disability on board. Like in the developed countries, like for instance in UK, I was once there, and I saw a flower sticker on a car, and when I asked, I was told that is a disability sticker, that those stickers are for children with autism and cerebral palsy. So anybody that sees that knows that there is a person with disability on board. So in Nigeria too, we need such stickers. And I think the National Commission for Persons with Disability is working on that. Persons with disability needs identification. You know, you don't have to always introduce yourself to people that, yes, I'm a person with disability, blah, blah, blah. Those that have mobility, like cars, they should have a sticker that it's on that car, so that when somebody see it, the person will be conscious that, yes, there is a person with disability on board.
World Health Organization have confirmed that, we have around 16% persons with disability in the world's population. Most of these disabilities are not caused as a result of congenital effects, but most of them as a result of road crashes. And I'm one of the victims. It was road crash, that resulted to the amputation of my leg at the age of 5. So a lot of persons with disabilities, from amputation, spinal injury, brain injuries and damages, a lot of injuries are caused as a result of crashes on the road. One, because most of the roads are not safe. Unfortunately, even in the Federal Capital Territory, where you expect that, everywhere will be safe and all that, we still have very bad roads. And we see accidents occurring on these roads daily. Not even just accidents, even damages to our cars happening daily. So this is one of the issues.
People with disability can drive in Nigeria. They must obey traffic laws. Identification helps others be aware. Society must make roads, parking space accessible for them.
The Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act makes it very clear that there's no public building that will be constructed now under the Act without making provision for persons living with disability. And even if those buildings have already been completed prior to 2019, the Act requires that you should be able to make provision for this category of persons so that they can have access. Even buses, to enable them access those buses in such a manner that it will be seamless. That law also makes provision for it. But like you rightly said, we don't construct the road. We are not the owners of the road, but we provide guidance on how the roads can be used. But our Act also requires that we can advise the Federal Ministry of Works or FEMA or State Ministry of Works that have a responsibility to construct the roads in terms of how provisions can be made to accommodate people that have disabilities in terms of accessing public transport, in terms of disembarking, in terms of where they're expected to park. We always provide guidance on how things can be done, especially in areas where we have noted there is a glaring absence of this particular infrastructure. And because of the level of people that come into that place, or the population of people that use that place, we have discovered that there are a lot of people that are living with disabilities and are always stranded in such locations. We also provide advice that those provisions should be made so that they can also be clearly accommodated in terms of how they can access or how they can leave those locations, or even how they can park their vehicles, so that it won't take too long for them to access their vehicles to enable them carry out whatever businesses that they want to carry out in such locations.
But right now, some public spaces are trying, and it's because of the awareness creation. They are trying to have such, but not all. And we are still advocating for that. And one thing again that is happening, the few public spaces that are creating these spaces, when you get there, you see that somebody has parked there. And when you inquire to know who has parked there, you discover that it's not even a person with disability. So this boils down to, again, awareness creation. Sometimes those offices, those public spaces create these places, and the security guards on duty don't even know that if a person that is not a person with disability comes, whether that place is empty, you don't have to allow the person. So the security places in these public spaces don't know that, so they have to be educated on the importance on leaving that places empty. Either even if a person with disability comes or not, that place is marked for them.
We have only few places where you see these reserved spaces. And you see a place where you can park thousands of cars. I don't want to start mentioning places, but you see only reserved spaces for 2 disabled spaces, just 2, when it comes to reservation. That is not enough. There is the universal number that should be provided. So there are also places where there is none at all. Let me just use this opportunity to share my personal experience when it comes to reserved spaces. There was a time before the enactment of the disability law, I think I should just make that clear. I parked somewhere around the Federal Secretariat. There is a place in the middle of the road. People do park their cars, but they insist. There are always road safety around there because they also have either an office or a space just opposite that place in the park. I don't know whether they are still there. I was going to the Police Service Commission just to submit a letter, and I was in pain. Like, I was in pain. And I stopped there. There was a road safety officer there. I pleaded with him, please, can I just park my car here just to dispatch this letter and come back? He said, if you can only park your car if you remain in the car. But I told him, for my predicament, please, can you just consider me? He said, yes, you can park, but at your own rate. But there was no option. I couldn't park at the car park there and walk down. In fact, I had blisters. I was in pain. I managed to go submit that letter. By the time I came back, the guy was not there. My car was not there. The women selling there told me they've tore your car into the park. It took me a lot of another pain to get to the park. I was crying. Not just because of what they did, but I was also crying for the pain I was going through. But there was no simple, in fact, not even sympathy, talk more of empathy from the officers there. They insisted that I must pay penalty, I must do this. One of the ladies was so harsh, I couldn't even talk because I was emotional. All I could do was just to cry and to beg, please. Because we didn't have a law then. So I could not even ask for. But I told them, even as a lawyer, I knew that, yes, to every general rule, there is an exception. I pleaded, they wouldn't hear me. They kept my car for 3 days. I had to follow up, went to their Zone 7 offices, that Zone 7 or Zone 6, follow up. I later met the boss together with, because I had to call other persons with disabilities in the community to help me in this. That was when we started advocacy, like we're still advocating for some of these things. But they insisted. I still had to pay part of the penalty. But what I spent, the trouble I went through, was worse than all the penalty combined together. But I know that now with the new law, there is non-discrimination, and the law has provided for exceptions for reserved spaces. If I should go there now, even when I go there now and I insist that I'm a person with disability, you can see my prosthetics and you should give me a place to park. Sometimes I go to the extent of showing them my prosthetics because they would not even understand what you're talking about. And they know. And because I have a law backing me now, I can talk anywhere. So we don't have enough reserved spaces. And sometimes our fellow citizens are not so kind. They will see a reserved space, they'll go there and park their car. But even in the Disability Act, that attracts a penalty. And I know some hotels here and some places here that would also keep insisting. But this thing has to, the people who, the security people especially, need some sensitization on this. Because sometimes they'll say, why are you still reserving this place when they are not coming? How many of them will come? They say some of these things. It's not, disability does not mean that you don't have the money to buy a car, or it is an inability to drive.
if you say a re-evaluation of persons with disabilities, are other road users too being re-evaluated after some time? If they are, then persons with disabilities too should be re-evaluated after some time of driving. But if they are not, then why are we going to be picked out to be re-evaluated? It doesn't make sense, because I am not boasting, but I will say I'm a very good driver and I'm a person with disability. So persons without disabilities too are bad drivers out there, and they are the ones that misbehave most on the roads.
Yes, that provision is actually there, and it's not restricted to only people with disability. That is why even under the current arrangement, where somebody, what we call the bypass in terms of processing of renewal of a driver's license, you are allowed to do a bypass only twice. After then, you must present yourself for physical exam. So that means that even for a normal person, by the time your age grows, there is likelihood that some of your faculties may begin to diminish in terms of your ability to see, your ability to hear, and even your limbs a lot of time may fail. So that provision is not only for people living with disability, even for normal persons.
Still adherence with the law, renewing your license, renewing your paper. No, I would advise every person with disability. Don't think because you're a person with disability, you shouldn't do this. No, you are a citizen of Nigeria. You must obey the rules of Nigeria. You should do that. We should have badges. We should have things that will protect us, because this also serves as a protection of the person with disability, so that someone who is driving would know. And you know, some of the disabilities are not even visible. We have persons with cognitive disabilities and mental health, that all those unnecessary honking, you know, that's one thing that we do in this country, unnecessary honking. I've had the privilege of living in another country for more than 1 year. I don't think I ever had someone blaring a horn. No, all this unnecessary, it affects the mental health. All these people shouting and screaming on the road anyhow, it affects persons with disabilities. Those are some of the things. And then when it comes to exemption, like what happened to me at the Federal Secretariat, yes, unnecessary penalty because of improper. I did not park to block the road. No. Get me right, I parked where others are parked. The only proviso there is that you should remain in your car. But I was not driving myself, and I cannot remain in my car. So if cars can be there, I can park my car there, just rush, and I'm not going for a meeting, I'm not going to sit. So those kind of exemption can be considered in order, you know, to consider accessibility also for persons with disabilities.
Thank you for staying with us. But remember, roads are for everyone. Let's make them inclusive and safe for every Nigerian. Thanks for watching Road Matters on the NTA. See you next week. Bye for now.